This is so much fun. There's a part of me that really doesn't want to do this. There's a part of me that really I don't want to disparage anybody in the helping industries, anybody who is assisting other humans in transforming their lives. So when I say coaches, I just want to be clear that it brings me no joy to do this. Um, at the same time, for the last year, I haven't done a few in several months, but at the same time, in the last year, I've been posting the 7 ways to tell if a coach is full of shit. And I think I stopped at 10 because I was like, all right, I think it's enough. Um, Now, I should say I've never called myself a coach, and I encourage other people to not call themselves a coach. But I think we all recognize the signs, and I think that there are some people who their bullshit meter is pretty high. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know they're full of shit. Um, so I'm gonna just run through, in my experience, what coaches who are full of shit do and say. Partly so that you can just Partly if you're a coach, you can just, up level your game. That's might be one of the ways to tell if they're full of shit. But also, uh, you want to protect yourself from people who are simply marketers, and I think it's important to make sure you're not just falling prey to marketers. People who took a really good marketing course and they're super sexy, or they're compelling, and you're like, yes, I want to have their life. And in my experience, most business coaches aren't even they're not even business coaches, they're marketers and they're marketing coaches. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know. I'm not going to get into my life story or my life path in this particular stream, but um, about 2004, I realized there was nothing else for me to do other than assist people in accelerating the evolution of consciousness on the planet. Like it's my life purpose, and I didn't have any other choice really. Like if you are aware of how purpose works, it really chooses you, and true purpose transcends context. So I have been helping people accelerating the evolution of their consciousness or accelerating the evolution of their businesses or what have you, full time since 2004. And in that time, I've had over 500 one on one clients through 6 month programs. I've taught plenty of coaches how to build their business. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not actually teaching clients how to, coaches how to build their business anymore. I just held the eighth holistic business training in August. We completed. That's the last time I'm doing that. Everything I'm doing is moving now into the relationship domain. But I just want to give you some tips and insights into how to tell if somebody's full of shit, because you're going to invest a lot of money and time and your heart. You're going to be like, oh, this person can help me, and in a way, you're probably going to fall in love with them, and then you're going to be disappointed. And so, I want to help you distinguish ways to determine how to filter them out. So, this is based on my experience doing this full time since 2004. Your mileage may vary, but I'm gonna combine some of these. But I wrote, and by the way, if you just search for ways to tell if a coach, and my post, you'll find most of these. I'm gonna add a few today, but one is they actually can't tell you what they do. It's a mystery even to them. They're like, well, I don't know, but what I do know is that clients transform their lives and blah blah blah, or they claim they're a muse, and really they're just like I think the pandemic has magnified some of this, um, but they don't have a track record, and really they're just Instagram models or sex workers who are looking to move their business into a different domain. And I get it. People make different choices in a pandemic, and that's fine. Or when the market shifts, I'll say. But there's a flip side of it. So either they can't tell you what to do, or they use a bunch of buzzwords like, well, I will help you up level your business in a way that has you get like, and it's just chock full of buzzwords. And what's great about these people is you can spot them right away. It's great, cool. They did a marketing course. They understand, marketing. That's fine. They're probably not great coaches though. So, you want to be wary of that. And it's not about whether or not they have a niche, by the way. Niche, and again, I don't teach coaches how to build their business anymore. I've moved on from that. But this isn't about them not knowing their niche. This is about them being unclear about what they have to offer, right? And here's the other way. Here's the second way you can tell if a coach is full of shit. They want to talk to you about what they do first. There was a long time where I didn't even tell people what I did until the end of the second meeting, or the second half of the second meeting, because I wanted to know what they wanted, what they needed, how I could be of service to them. And so somebody who's really worth paying money to, they're going to be able to tell you, or they're going to be able to ask, well, what is it that you want? How would you know when you have that? What's been stopping you? If they're certain they can assist you, then they will then say, well, yeah, we should meet again. I'll explain how I can help you do that. And so the real key here is that they're service oriented. And so they're going to be able to offer you a plan for how they can help you achieve your outcomes. It's really straightforward. If a coach isn't doing that, if they're coming with lifestyle marketing, or if they're just like, I do this, if you want that, then you'll sign up with me, they're full of shit. I mean, a really good coach or practitioner will want to ask you a bunch of questions first to see if it's fit. They're not looking to just sell you a thing. They're looking to help you achieve your outcomes. They're looking to help you get more of what you are desiring in your life. And if it's not a fit, they will tell you that. It's just somebody who's a professional who has integrity. So those are two ways you can tell if a coach is full of shit or not. So let's move on to, I have so many of these. All right. The third one is, oh gosh, I don't know how to do this diplomatically, so I might not. There's a whole other. You can tell they haven't done their own work, and so and it's difficult for me to tell you how to discern this. I can see it almost immediately. Part of it is they deflect, or they will block you if you challenge them at all, or if you have any questions, or and they're coming from, rather than a place of service and saying, thank you for showing me where my communication wasn't as effective as it could be. They will blame the listener for whether or not they were getting it or not. So it's not whether, like, if you're going to be a professional, if you're going to be a coach or a practitioner helping people, you need to be an effective communicator. As an effective communicator, you realize that you are at the locus of power. So for me, it's never, well, they're not getting it, or they're stupid, and I know I make fun of stupid and incompetent people all the time, but I'm also saying that if I'm trying to communicate a message and someone's like, they say, well, this doesn't make sense, I don't say, well, that's because you're not getting it. I say, oh, thank you. I realize I haven't been as effective as I could be at communicating the message I'm trying to communicate. So they take responsibility for the communication. They welcome questions. I mean, I look at questions as, thank you so much. You're helping me develop content. Awesome. You're helping me clarify my ideas. That's where somebody who's in this business should really be coming from, if there's somebody you want to invest money in. So that's the third one. Just gonna go down this list too. Um, another one, the fourth one is, and this one really grinds my gears. If they have it that the people, they're like, oh, it's great, and usually they don't tell us the client, which is unfortunate. But they'll say, oh, isn't it great that the things that I need to work on, those people come into my life as prospects? I'm like, no, that's not great. In fact, if it's an area that you're not competent in yet, you need to be really clear with the prospective client. And if as somebody who's looking for a coach or a practitioner, if they say, oh yes, I'm dealing with that in my life currently, you really don't want to work with that person. Now, there are certainly people I have that have signed up with me for a 6-month personal evolution program or a professional evolution program, and there are some areas that I don't, but I'm just really clear with them. And in my exploratory session before they sit up with me, if they say I want to work on X, I say, yeah, X, that's not my area. I can refer you to somebody, but that's not my area of expertise. And I could suggest a book or something that I've read that I know, or somebody else, but I want to make sure that I'm clear with the client, and you want to make sure that you're clear with a practitioner or coach that you hire, that they're working within their area of expertise. And I just tell clients, or prospective clients in the beginning, hey, if there's an area that you want to work on that is not in my area of expertise, I will simply make that very clear to you. And they go, oh, thank you so much. And there's relief. They trust me more. We're not wasting time wondering. And you shouldn't be working as a coach or practitioner. You should not be working outside of your area of expertise. Like, holy fuck, why would you do that? It's dishonest. It lacks integrity. And you're just like, if you need to work on a thing, you shouldn't be working on that thing while you're working with the client. You should be working on that thing with somebody else who's a coach or a practitioner or a consultant or something like that. So I have very little patience for that particular aspect. So, whew, all right, that's another one. Hold on. This number. Oh, this is a good one. I'm just looking at my own notes from the past. If they want to offer you a free coaching session so you can have the experience of what it's like to be coached by them, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're full of shit. It just means that they lack a lot of experience and they're probably one-dimensional. There's absolutely no way I could provide somebody with an experience of what it's like to be coached by me in 1 hour. First of all, I've been trained in multiple modalities. I've owned businesses. I've been in this business full time for 16 years. I've done NLP. I've done Landmark. I've done Vipassana meditation. I've, there's integral theory. There's, there's, straight coaching. So the idea that I could give somebody a snapshot and then they could choose to sign up with me or not, that's pretty silly. In fact, it's almost irresponsible of me. And so if somebody wants to give you a free coaching session so you can experience what it's like to be coached by them, it means they have one approach, which is fine if you want a two-dimensional coach. Again, doesn't necessarily mean that they're full of shit. Just means that, you're not going to get a whole lot of traction or depth from them as a practitioner. So that's another one. Oh, these just bother the hell out of me. There are just so many shit coaches out there. Here's another one. They have a buy now button on their website. They're like, oh, you can just buy a session. Now you might think, well, that's weird. Why would that be that a coach is full of shit? Again, there is no way that you can sign up even for a course on my website because I want to talk to you first. I want to make sure it's a fit. And so, if they're an excellent practitioner, they're going to want to be of service to you. They're not looking to just, ring the cash register. Again, nothing wrong with that. If that's who you want to be involved with, I'm just saying that if you want depth practitioners, if they have a click now for a, like, there's no way I want somebody to give me money before I know if it's a fit or not. And for me to determine if it's a fit to work with somebody or not, it requires a 30-minute initial conversation. And then if it seems like an initial fit, and I mostly just ask them a bunch of questions. Then we schedule another 2.5 hour, also complimentary session. People are like, well, why don't you charge for that? Like, because I don't feel like it makes sense for me to charge prospective clients to see if we want to work together or not. It's bizarre. And yet, there's a lot of coaches out there who do that. They're like, yeah, if you want to, pay for your initial conversation. I'm like, all right, that's, and trust me, with the emails I send people, which, people who've been through again, I'm not teaching coaches how to build their business anymore, but for the people who have been through my courses, the people don't get, like, you don't have to use money as a filter. You can tell if somebody's serious or not if they simply show up and do the things they need to do to get there, and to get to that stage. And then you actually know if they're serious or not. And I would rather deal with my prospective clients with integrity, saying, hey, let's make sure this is a fit before you give me any money, than some other way. So it's just not. So anyway, that's like, I don't know, if I'm at 4 or 5. So buy now buttons on their side, or pay me money and then I'll talk to you buttons, because it tells me they're more interested in money than they are in serving you. And the money will, like, they'll make plenty of money if they can be of service to you. All right, hang on. God, I love these. They're easily triggered if they're challenged. So I mentioned this a little bit. Like, if you ask them a question, I talked about communication. But if they just get triggered, if they come from authority, is another way to think about it. Rather than coming from, like, they're educating you, or they're serving you. If they're not coming from a place of service, which is, what do you want? How can I help you to get that? Another way that shows up, and I think we're at number 5 now, or something like that, is if they go, this is what I do. Do you want that or not? Right. And so that's another way. Diane Sherman has a great question here. Is it vital to know or see certifications? Do you work with a personal coach? I worked with many coaches. I've worked with many mentors over the years. I don't think certifications are important, which is kind of funny, because I'm leading a certification training for neurolinguistic programming that begins in May. It's 7 months long. But I also tell them, like for people who are building their business, nobody cares about certifications. And if somebody asks about certifications, it just feels like they're trying to invalidate you already. What is important is testimonials. So I'm sure you have experienced people who have a certification or a license and they're crap. And then you've experienced somebody who has none of that, but they're incredibly effective. And so certifications don't matter. Results do. And so I would rather see what clients are saying about the results they produce than I do about some, or because I've even seen organizations be like, well, I mean, we offer this certification, but everybody gets certified, right? And they're like, haha, isn't that cool? I'm like, no, that's not cool. There should be some serious rigor around that, but especially in the alternative industries, in the helping industries, there's a lack of rigor around certification. So to answer Diane's question, I don't think it's important that you see their certifications. I don't think they actually matter. I would rather see somebody who's been doing it a while, or has it, like, there's a very long list of testimonials on my site that show the different kinds of people that I've helped produce different kinds of results, and they're all real people with real photographs on the testimonials page. And but certifications to me don't really matter. Just like I learned how to drive a car when I was 12. And I've met people who are 50 who can't drive nearly as well as I could. And I was driving better than them when I didn't have a license. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should go do that. I'm just simply saying I've met a lot of fuzzy headed PhDs in my life who weren't effective practitioners. So certifications in and of themselves do not guarantee competence. That's my point there. But feedback from their clients are a greater indicator of competence and efficacy. And that's what you want. You want an effective, competent practitioner. You don't want somebody who's got a piece of paper. Closing tabs. So I'll get the Oh my gosh. Number 4, they only ever post about lifestyle stuff. Beaches. Oh my gosh, I'm living in the islands, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's fine. It just tells me they're not a coach, they're a marketer. And again, this has increased during the pandemic. Somebody who's constantly just sending you photos from the beach, from the pools, or having drinks with friends, and they're posting to their story. And I think Instagram has heavily influences. These aren't people who can offer a depth and richness in terms of assisting you. And man, I have dealt with a lot of people who they go, I went to this course and God, it was shit, but they were super sexy and their marketing was great. And I can't remember. I wouldn't say who it was anyway, but I can't remember who it was. But they were leading a course with their partner on relationship stuff, and they were absolutely in a total meltdown around their relationship, and the drama was getting on the entire course. And it was clear they didn't have their own shit handled. Like they didn't even know how to navigate conflict or anything like that. So it was just not pleasant to see. It was unseemly, as the old people like me. That's a 50-year-old guy word. Unseemly. Another question: do you run any types of relationship groups, or do? It's a great question. Do you run any types of relationship groups, or do you focus just on one-on-one coaching? It's a bit of both. I recently started the Evolutionary Gentleman group. I'm currently writing a book on relationships called Evolutionary Relationships. If you go to evolutionarycompanies.com and you go to the blog section, you can look at excerpts from the book by simply searching for the tag evolutionary, but clicking on the bottom of any one of the entries there. There, I do have an entry level group. It's $97 a month. I mostly focus on one-on-one coaching though. I mostly because here's my experience, and here's another way to tell if a coach is full of shit or not. You can only get serious transformation in your life, like sustainable change in your life, if you work with somebody for 3, but more likely 6 months. And so, phase 1 of my work with people one-on-one lasts 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. It's like we have to clear out anxiety, fear, anger, shame, parental imprints, limiting beliefs, childhood traumas. Like that's stuff if they exist in your nervous system. And so clearing all that stuff out, like that's just phase 1 of my work. And so, yes, I do have a relationship group. It's a very small amount of people, partly because I'm focused on, beginning this NLP training, partly because I mostly deal with people who are committed to for 6 or 7 months with me one-on-one, and we go really deep. But if you're interested in that time, we can have a conversation about it. But another way to tell if a coach is full of shit is if they do session by session stuff, because a really good practitioner should know, and every practitioner I've talked to who's done this for some period of time, and we talk about, how long it takes to have stable change, meaning you don't need me anymore. I mean, like every practitioner's goal should be for you to not need them anymore. Like, you should not need me after 6 or 7 months. That should be like, my goal is to be obsolete. That's my goal, is for you to not need me in your life anymore. Maybe you do another thing with me, maybe you do another course, or maybe, and I've had clients circle back after some years. Like, I had a client who we worked together for 7 months, and then, for 4 years we stayed in contact, and then then he had a breakup, and we had an entirely new relationship around an entirely new context. And in that second phase, I coached him from breakup through finding a new partner, and then eventually ended up officiating their wedding. And that was 2 years ago, and that was, it was a lovely experience. But for the most part, you want to make sure, and every practitioner, every coach worth their salt should want you to not need them anymore. I think if you need me after 6 or 7 months in the same context, I'm not very good. That's the way I look at it, and I should refer you out. Like, I should have some integrity around making sure I'm assisting you in attaining your outcomes. And if I can't do that, then I'm not the guy for you. Or, like, I had a colleague one time, and he was in this argument with a client about like that he hadn't paid him. And I was like, oh, why do you deal with that? And he's like, well, he's been my client for 4 years. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. And he's got this anger thing. And it's always, and I was like, and you're still dealing with that anger thing after 4 years? I mean, you must not be very good, man. He didn't like that, but he was a good friend of mine. But really, like seriously, if your client still has the same issues after 4 years, you should have said 2 years ago or 3 years ago, hey man, let me refer you to somebody else, some other practitioner. That's just my opinion, which I stand by. All right, let me have a few more here. Oh yeah, they charged for the initial session. I covered this a little bit, but if they're charging you to see if you want to work together or not, or if it's a fit, then either their focus is more on them and the money that they can get from you, rather than whether or not they could be of service to you. Also, from a business perspective, it's short-sighted. Like, why would I charge somebody, several $100s to talk about whether or not we should work together, when really we're going to work together for 7 months, and it will be several $1,000s? Why would, from a practitioner perspective and a business perspective, why would I put that barrier in the way? Now, there was one instance where I had somebody that I actually charged them, and I said, hey, and here's what happened. They didn't show up twice. And I was like, and my interpretation isn't that they're a flake or that they didn't respect my time or any of those stupid ego-driven things. I was like, they must be really scared. And so I told them, I called them up and I said, hey, you're probably scared, or maybe you forgot, and I said, and for me to schedule a third session, like a third exploratory session with you, like, you're going to need to put down a deposit. Now, if we work together, it'll be applied to us, to your contract. If we don't work together, I'll refund your money. And he did come. He did pay. He did come. He's like, thanks, man. Like, I was terrified to work with you. Like, and this happens with some people. They're like, you're like, I can see all the things that you see, and it scares me. And he really thanked me for that. He's like, it's exactly what I needed. And I applied the money to his contract. That's different, right? All right, I think we're on like 8 of 7 now. And the other thing is, they're like, oh, I don't like agreements. I think we should just, So first of all, this person is not a professional, and while I would love to live in a world where there's no need for agreements, you should have a clear understanding of what you're agreeing to, for how long, what the expectations are. That's just what a professional consultant does. I'm not a licensed therapist. That's one of the first paragraphs in my 5-page agreement. It's funny. I was in a group one time, and I mentioned that I had a 5 or 6 page uh, client guide agreement, and somebody goes, "Wow, that's a red flag." And this guy was a coach. I was like, "I'm not sure why you think it's a red flag, but I do understand that most coaches don't behave professionally, and I'm a professional. For me, I'm providing a service that will produce a result. Like I'm not depending on you liking me, because sometimes you won't like me. That's fine. I don't actually give a shit if you like me or not. I could care less. What I care about is I'm going to come at you with brute force competence and skill and grace and spaces just at times when you need it. Like I can definitely go into an empathetic zone and hold space for you, or I can kick your ass. It really depends on what you need as a client. And so if there's a client if there's a coach who's like, "Oh, I don't like agreements. We should all just, yeah, okay, let's see how well that works." And that also tells me they either haven't been at it for very long, or they're stupid. But the bottom line is they're not professionals. And so if they don't have a client agreement, I mean, mine's every time I send up a client, they're like, "Wow, could I use this as a template? This is amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it's gone through." I've had over 500 clients. I've had 3 different, like, occasionally I've had lawyers as clients who are like, "Hey, you should add this," or so it's been thoroughly vetted. There's a alternative dispute resolution clause that alone cost me $700. But it's been tested up to the Supreme Court. Like, you should have, and the benefit of this too, just speaking like to coaches who may or may not be watching this, it communicates to the prospective client, "Hey, this is a serious, formal relationship. I'm a professional, you're a client." And so the agreement is like, there's nothing that drops people in, has them take it seriously, and have agreement, and they go, "Oh yeah, okay, like I get it. We are stepping into a formal relationship here. The outcomes and the metrics are well defined, and we know what we're going for." And they understand how the process is going to look, all of that. And the lack of professionalism, I mean, there's just this sweeping, God, there's so many shit coaches out there. Really great marketers, and they're super pretty and sexy, but they're just not professionals. And so part of even though I've never called myself a coach, I've always called myself an evolutionary guide. There's a part of me that the reason I'm doing this live stream is because it is incredibly unfortunate that it seems to have accelerated in the last year. There's a lot of people who are presenting themselves as coaches who aren't. They're former Instagram models. They're dudes with great beards. They're like, whatever. Like, it doesn't. There's just a lot of shit out there right now in the marketplace. I think we all need our ass kicked when it comes to relationships. Yeah. I swore for years. I'm like, I'm not a relationship coach. I mean, I am now, but I used to ask people, "Are you in a relationship, or are you in a habit?" And they would go, "Oh." And that's one of the first questions I like to ask people. It's like, "Hey, are you in a relationship, an actual relationship? Based in, like, is there excellent communication? Are you sure your values are aligned? Do you have some basic agreements on how you handle upsets and how you handle conflict? And is there clarity around your agreement?" But really, the first question I like to ask them is, and it always messes people up: "Are you in a relationship, or are you in a habit?" And you would be shocked. Well, maybe you wouldn't, Diane. You would be shocked at how many people go, "Oh, like they're in a habit. They just don't want to leave," or they're like, it'd be too, like, or they're afraid to be alone. There's an excerpt from the book I'm writing on the website that's, how to know when it's time to leave. It's relationship postmortem. And I say, I'm not sure when it's time to leave, but here's the wrong reasons to stay. And I list a bunch of, like you're scared about, you're scared to be alone, or you're worried about money, or you're afraid to hurt their feelings, or and it doesn't matter how this, even when there's children involved, it's far worse to stay in a relationship that is unfulfilling. And I think everybody is worthy of being in a fulfilling relationship. But I also think that you're not fundamentally fit to be in a healthy romantic relationship unless you're comfortable being alone. All right, so that's like number 8 or 9 of 7 is that they charge for the initial conversation or clarity session. They should be looking to see if it's a fit first, rather than just being focused on the money. All right, here's the last thing I'll say on this. I get that people have a fetish for trauma, and there's a lot of talk about trauma and wounding. There's a fine line between acknowledging that and assisting people in being free from that, and reinforcing it and almost fetishizing it as a result of the focus. And if you followed me for any period of time, you know that there's a couple things I say, and one of them is everything is self-hypnosis. Every thought you think, every song you listen to, everything you say, every conversation you have, all the content you're consuming, whether it's lyrics, or whether it's news, or whether it's, and so you want to be very cautious about your self-hypnosis. And so really one of the best things about personal evolution of any kind is having the ability to observe your thoughts, and how rapidly you can observe your thoughts and whether or not those are useful or not. But there are things that impact our nervous system. I mean, I had a very traumatic childhood. My parents were both black belts, and they would get into fights, and so it was like black belts in Hung Gar Tiger Crane, which is a southern Chinese kung fu system. And so they would be fighting each other throughout the house. It was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, all over the house. And my mother left my father, and took me and my little sister with her when I was 6 or 7. And my father found us and kidnapped us back. So I have tons of trauma, right? And I'm not going to let that define me. And also I realize that you should engage a practitioner, which is one of the reasons I teach NLP, because it's so effective. A lot of people have this fantasy that it's bypassing. And my response to them is essentially this: any technology, from Arthur C. Clarke, any technology sufficiently advanced will appear like magic. And there's a whole industry around trauma, and communities around it, and they don't realize that they're actually reinforcing it by talking about it constantly, and by sharing it. And yeah, it's important that we talk about it, and then you should clear it and pull it out of your nervous system, and then you can be free from it. There should be a whole community around it, and then people assist, and they're further entrenched, and all this is like trauma. Well, everything's trauma. Yeah, trauma is real. It exists. It impacts us, and we need to be cautious about having it become a lifestyle, which would be even more tragic than the trauma itself. So it's a kind of group trance, and I think it's a real problem in the coaching and helping industries. So it's also an indication to me, again, sticking with the theme of how to tell when a practitioner or coach is full of shit. It tells me they have one approach, and they have one filter through which they view the world. And really, the essence of personal evolution, the practice, and the evidence of it, is the ability to take on an ever increasing number of perspectives. And one of the perspectives Yeah, I was also in prison at the age of 20 for stealing brand new sports reserve car lots. I have a very, my father blew his brains out when I was 24. Like I have like one of the things that I can't stand about a lot of coaches is they clearly haven't done a bunch of their own work. You can really tell. They read a book from Eckhart Tolle and now they think they can be a coach because they also took a marketing course. And I just, I have such a low opinion of the quality of coaches out there in the business right now. It's absurd. I mean, and most of the live streams I'm doing with other people, that's how we connect. We're like, do you believe this fucking shit? This horrible coach? No, man. They're clearly like they don't. Uh, anyway, so the essence of personal evolution is the ability to take on an ever increasing number of perspectives. So if you only see the world through the lens of trauma, then all you're going to see is like it's the reticular activating system and confirmation bias and all those things that beliefs, like the filters you see the world through. And so having flexibility around that, perceptual flexibility, to me is one of the most important things. So, and also you don't want to indulge the client in that. If you're in a session with somebody and you started crying about a thing and they started crying too, well, you wouldn't get anywhere. I mean, they need to obviously develop, you need to be empathetic to your situation, but they need to do it just long enough so that you feel safe enough so they can then transform it and pull it out of your nervous system using the right tools. Yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in, I'm teaching an NLP course that starts in May. It's the last time I'm doing it. This is the fourth one. I just taught I'm no longer doing the holistic business training. Just I said that was the last time I was doing it. It is. We completed that in August. But I'm doing one more NLP practitioner certification if you're interested in having really advanced tools for helping people and interested in being an incredible practitioner. And if you're a coach, you really I have it. Every coach should know NLP. I've been an NLP master practitioner since 1995. And I don't know where I would be if it hadn't been for the gift of those tools and those perspectives. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email or a message and use the word periwinkle and I'll give you 50% off the course. It's a 7-month course. It's a serious commitment. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I hope this is useful. I hope this helps people filter out some of the share when it comes to coaches and practitioners. And thank you, as always, for allowing me to be of service to you. And I'll see you next week at the same time with a different topic.